Hey, so this episode is just gonna go down some creepy cult like encounters or actual cult encounters, just because I have a special interest in cults, not in an entertainment way, but just in kind of a sociological and psychological interest in it. And I wanted to read real stories. Obviously, there are many real stories, but I just wanted to read some stories. Also, just see stories of things that are not necessarily cults, but are very cult-like. Just thought it'd be interesting. But before I start, hi everyone, my name is Charmaine, and welcome to the Tragically Inattentive and Distracted. Well, it's not a podcast. I was about to say a podcast, but it's just where I just ramble and ramble about the random rabbit holes that my ADHD brain went down. This week we're doing another Reddit episode, and we are talking about what's the most effed up cult-like experience that you or someone you know has had, and how did you get out of it? For me personally, I don't think I have ever had a cult encounter or cult like. I can joke about how when I was when I was very evangelical Christian, that felt very cult like. I am now atheist, so I don't want to be the angry atheist online, but I will also critique a few things about church and Christianity, and just especially the ongoings of evangelical Christianity. I can't even say it, but I thought this one would just be very fun to read and just really interesting, because even in our fresh year of 2026, cults are starting, they're growing, and it's very scary. They are growing, whether they are in-person cults, and now with the rise of AI, there are some people who are starting to worship AI, and cults starting from AI. So it is a very scary place to be, and it is going to be, for me personally, interesting to read people's stories and to see what we can learn from that to help us not fall down any traps of these scary high control groups, and just to be proud of people who were able to get out of high control groups, or recognize, hey, this might be something that will take me down a path that will be very harmful for me. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to read is the first comment that you see here. I was raised in the Hispanic Catholic community in a small town. I realized the community I was raised in was cult-like because of this one vivid memory I still think of from time to time. My parents sent me off to a religious retreat when I was around 15. I was to be locked in this warehouse-looking building for a solid week with no communication to the outside world. The windows were boarded and the curtains were drawn so we couldn't see daylight. They confiscated all personal electronics and had to sleep in sleeping bags on tile floor. There's a lot that happened in the course of that week, so I'll just summarize. They woke us up at 5 a.m. every day. I know the time because there were clocks on the wall. Upon waking, they forced us to sit down for 3+ hours and listen to preachers condemn us and tell us to repent, or we would burn in hell for all of eternity. After the morning preaching, they had us in groups talk about our experiences in life, and there were some fucked up minds in there. The guy next to me was an ex-gangster who ran with gangs down in LA. Many felons and people from troubled pasts. Keep in mind, I'm a 15-year-old kid thrown into this environment. It was people from all ages. The youngest was about 12 and the oldest about 60. Then came the videos. They showed videos of violence around the world, claiming this is what happens when you don't follow God. So much gore. This religious retreat was borderline militant and just scarred my young mind. I absolutely grew hate towards all religion. Once that week was over, I walked out of the warehouse seething with anger and resentment. I decided I was an atheist and hid my resentment from my parents until I turned 18, when I just couldn't take it anymore. I had a huge argument with my parents and left my household, so I'd say that was the most cult-like experience I've ever had. I'm sure much worse has happened to others, but this is my experience. It disgusts me that people do this to teenagers and even children. I understand that people have their beliefs and whatnot, but this is not the way to go about it. Don't subject young, impressionable minds to this shit, because more than that, they derive their faith from fear rather from love, or end up like me and just drop the faith in all. Oh my God. The top response is, holy shit, that's horrid, are you okay now? Which is literally what I'm thinking. Like, are they okay? And the person says, for the most part, yes. Very recently, I started bringing back old memories of this. I thought I worked through it all, but I honestly just buried it into my mind as I'm facing what happened and overcoming my mental trauma to better my mental health. I'm trying to thrive instead of just live. To do that, I have to face my past to overcome it. So far, it's been a great and amazing journey. Oh, I'm so glad that they are just finding ways to overcome the trauma, because that is severely traumatic and in all ways not okay to do that to a child. Yeah, I actually don't even know how to respond to this one. This one is just so heavy and so scary, but I'm really glad that the poster, the original poster, is okay and has had access to access and time to heal and work through a lot of the memories and the heartache from that time, because this is terrifying. And I also think it's great that they were able not to be brainwashed by all of that. It's just so harmful to try push young people who are so impressionable into a religion or belief using fear, because that is always going to do the opposite. Or if it doesn't do the opposite, it's going to put young people in some dangerous and scary situations, and that's not okay. So I'm really happy that OP was able to get out of this and able to process through this, because that is scary. Sounds like the start of a cult. Just that isolation, that group thinking is just oof, no thank you. Okay, one of the other comments here, just to, on a lighter note, multi-level marketing, MLMs. And it says he got out of it when he realized he wasn't making any money, and his investments were just being put in on a pyramid scam. This actually reminds me of a story. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but it reminds me of a story when I was just going through a rough time, and it was kind of in the beginning of my deconstruction. I didn't realize that at the time I was actually trying to deconstruct my religion. I just thought that I was having very little faith and that I was having a faith crisis. And I was seeing someone who, honestly, don't even know if they had a degree in counseling, but I was seeing someone who was saying that they were going to counsel me and help me through this. And somehow it turned into them inviting me into the MLM. And at the time, I didn't know what they were, because they didn't call it a pyramid scheme, because I think before they were labeled MLM, they were just called pyramid schemes. But when it got called multi-level marketing, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me totally do this. And I was thinking, wow, this is so nice. But, also at the same time, I was also confused, because I'm like, I'm coming too because I'm here confused about my faith. And now you're telling me, let me open a business and blah, blah, blah. And then I just realized years later, actually, because I eventually left the country and moved abroad. But I just realized years later, when I was thinking back on that time, I was like, so this girl was trying to get me in an MLM instead of actually helping me through my life crisis.
You done lost your damn mind. When you get your damn mind, you call me.
Guys, but MLMs are very cultish. They are very cult-like. I just don't understand how they are still around, and they target people that are vulnerable or unaware, and it's just not okay. So if you like anti-MLM videos, you should definitely watch Hannah Alonso, because she talks a lot about how these MLMs, their tactics to get you, and how they keep you trapped, and sometimes how difficult they are to kind of exit or leave. So anyway, I love watching her content, and I think it was because of her where I had that thought of, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, so I think this is a deleted profile, but this is from 5 years ago. But another person spoke about the experience, and they said, I used to be part of a church back in 2016, 2017 time. They were pretty strict about things, a friendly group of people overall. We went on a weekend away trip to the countryside where I live, and I had a really weird feeling about it for some reason. Nothing had happened, but I had this feeling that I really shouldn't go. I think a few people got the same feeling, because not long after that, our youth pastor was on Facebook Live telling us all, the devil is telling some of you not to go, but you really should. Being a traditional Christian at the time, I pushed down my feelings and went away anyway. Before going, we were promised it'd be a fun getaway with hiking, games, a pool, etc. What we actually saw when we got there was so different. It was a huge barn-style building with dorms that look a little bit like student accommodation. We had bunk beds and you could fit 4 to 5 people in one room. There were showers at the end of the hallway and a huge hotel-style kitchen dining room. The trip actually consisted of us going to a building on site for church. The first night I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess it's a Christian thing after all. The next day we went to church in the morning, took a break for lunch, went again in the afternoon, took a break for dinner, and then back to church. It was literally just church around the clock. It was pretty intense stuff too. I remember one girl crying in a corner after breaking up with her boyfriend, church-going boyfriend of course. And the 60-something of us there were all got really, really close to her, putting our hands on her head and stuff and praying. The whole weekend was literally church around the clock. There was even a midnight service where we were expected to get up in the middle of the night to go back. It was like nothing described. There was a pool, and we did get to go in it for about 10 minutes, but the girls had to wear t-shirts over their swimming costumes. I don't know. Maybe this isn't that weird from an outside perspective, but I was 16-ish at the time, and I remember, what the F am I doing here? Honestly, I would be so upset if I thought I was going to a fun church camp and then that's what happened. I think when I was a teenager, I used to go to church camps, but I actually just remember us playing games a lot. And then obviously doing like worship stuff and then a few Bible stuff. But I remember us playing a lot of games and obviously swimming with t-shirts on and all that stuff. But church back to back like that is insane. Is insane. And the thing is about church, in my opinion, is churches elicit a lot of emotions through the preaching, through the worship. And most of the time, they elicit what you would think of very introspective emotions. And so, in a way, as much as church, for me, in my opinion, for me, as much as church always felt very freeing, but I used to feel drained after church. And that time, I didn't really realize that I was drained. I know people are going to be here like, my church is not like that. I know, not every church. In my opinion, and that my experience, a lot of the time, church was just draining the life out of me. And I didn't realize it then. I just thought I was going through some spiritual stuff, but I cannot imagine going to a church camp thinking that you're going to have fun, because also you're 16, thinking you're going to have fun, you're going to play games, you're going to swim, you're just going to, have a good time with your Christian friends. And then it's just like back to back draining emotional states of being. That's a lot. That is a lot, because honestly, before I was like super evangelical, I was just a normal Christian, if you want to call it that, and I used to go to church camps and it was fun. But this sounds draining. Does have very cult-like tendencies, because you're isolated, drained, because it is emotionally draining to be praying and church things over and over and over again without a real break. And then you're being woken up at night, so you're being like sleep deprived essentially. You're being put in situations where you have to wear t-shirts because you're a girl to go into the pool. Anyway, that is the last thing I will be reading for you for this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.